Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the BFUHS School Board meeting.
Good evening. Today is Monday, June 12th, and we're meeting in the library at the Bellas Hall Junior High School. It's 6:30, and I would like everyone to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, first thing I'd like to do is introductions around the table, if we could. Andy, do we have anybody on Zoom that's on our board? I don't think so.
No, you have no board member.
Okay, right. Mike, why don't you kick us off?
Mike Stack, new board member, representing Rockingham.
Thank you. Darcy.
Stacia Sprague, representing Grafton.
Tanya Noyes representing Athens.
June Streeter representing Westminster.
Brenda Vargas, representing Rockingham.
David.
Oh, David Clark. I also represent Westminster.
Rob.
Rob Wells, new board member, representing Rockingham.
And Priscilla.
Priscilla Lambert, I represent Rockingham.
And my name is Jason Perry, and I love my town and I love our school, and I look forward to being your board chair. I know that I'm going to make some mistakes, but together I think we can accomplish some great things. Thank you. Is there any adjustments to today's agenda?
I just have one request. We have a student presentation that we tried to push towards the end. Because they're on an event right now, but they've just let us know that they're working closer to 8 o'clock. So that I'm asking if, when they show up, if we could pause whatever we're doing so that they could do that presentation. At least give them time to set up and whatnot.
I'd also like to add an executive session under 8 A to discuss a contract matter, which with prior knowledge. Okay.
I think we already have that as 8B contract executive session. Do we need to change that other than that?
Oh, nope, sorry.
And then Andy, so do we need to change where the presentation is, or we just leave it there and then as we come in?
If we could just leave it there, if I just note to everybody that when they come, if we could just interrupt.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Rob?
I got one. If we can put under maybe 8E, or I'm sorry, 9E, number 3 or 4 subcommittee to talk about norms and expectations for board and superintendent.
Where was that, Rob?
9E, and it can go before or after other, so 3 or 4. On that side of the agenda.
And the topic, please.
Norms for board and superintendent subcommittee.
Thanks.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, just if you're asking for a subcommittee, that would go under new business, not under old business.
Okay, we'll put it under new business.
8.
So that'd be a 8C.
Actually, can we make that under 8A number? I'll just put a number 3 instead of after executive session. So it would be. Rob, get that one more time. Norms.
Norms, expectations for board and superintendent.
Okay. Anything else? John, do you have any adjustments?
No, none for me, thank you.
Okay. All right, next thing we have is communication and public comment. Right? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lou Smith. Nothing earth shattering, just maybe a couple of suggestions. If the board members could speak up a little bit, it's really hard to hear just sitting here, and it's been hard to hear on Zoom because I've been watching on Zoom. So if the board members could speak up when they speak. And the other one is a suggestion, and I don't even know if it's possible, but there's a gate in the outfield of the baseball field. I was just wondering if that could be unlocked for graduation, because cars will park along the driveway. And then last year I sat and watched people try to hurdle the fence to avoid going around to get to their seats or the bleachers or wherever they were going. So I was just wondering if that gate could possibly be unlocked for that night. If the key can be found.
Are you talking about is that the right field?
On the driveway?
I don't know, I gotta think, turn around, yes.
Right field, okay.
Yeah, it's between the soccer field and the
Gotcha.
baseball field, the outfield of the baseball field.
Mr. Brother, that's something we can accomplish?
Yep, yeah, we'll look into that and get that done and kind of make it aware. I don't know
Yeah.
how to make it aware. If we put a beacon on it or something, then people might know that it's
Put it on
usable.
Facebook.
Oh, yeah, that gets around everywhere. Yeah.
They use Facebook.
Can you do that for me? Can you do that for me?
Sure, put that on Facebook for you. You gotta let me know when that, when you
I got the country to know all about it.
Anything else, Ms. Smith?
No,
Okay, anybody else? All right, so I just want to make sure you want us to speak up on Zoom and unlock the gate for the graduation, so.
yeah, it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next up, review and approve board minutes for April 24th, May 8th, May 22nd, and May 24th. June, can I get a motion for that?
I would like to move with corrections to accept the minutes with some corrections.
And do you have those corrections?
I have some, yes.
Can we do them individually, Jason?
Sure. All right, well, why don't we do April 24th first?
Okay. Let's see which one I have. No, that's not. April 24th. On the page 3 of 6, the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, it says resulting from the pandemic, and then it says JSU outlook. What the JSU, I think it,
Which page is that, Jim?
page 3 of 6, the 4th line down, it says resulting from the pandemic period, JSU outlook at the SVACs and map testing. I'm not sure what JSU is supposed to be.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think that's all I had for that one.
I think I would ask if I can go back to Justin Obi and just ask him if he recalls, but I think he had a written statement, so maybe, I don't know what that means either. I've been trying to figure that out. If I could get that and bring it back to you.
Okay.
It
All right.
just, okay.
All right, so next up, we have May 8th.
The only thing I had on May 8th, it looks like, there's track on page 3 of 4. It says track surface and it's underlined. Is that just hanging out there? Or was that what Molly commented would be discussed at Buildings and Grounds Committee?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had for that one.
Does anybody have anything else for that? That date?
You know what, I just figured it out, what it means, back on page 3 or 6. It's just look at SBAC and MAPS test score.
Okay.
Thank you.
The outlook is wrong, but it's just look.
Okay, so she just has to correct, okay.
All right, and then we're on to May 22nd,
24th?
22nd.
May 22nd.
I would like someone to review the tape and, finish my statement that's happened there. On the back of the page.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's what I had marked also. It says, and knowing, and then E, and then it's just nothing.
Right.
And then under June, I just had a picky thing.
So, we're on May 24th now.
May 24th, if you look at your statement on the last page, I don't think you want to carve up the
Yeah,
principal.
I did
Yeah.
notice that.
And that's the only thing I had
Grade, that's supposed to be.
for that one.
Nice catch, Priscilla, thank you. Okay, so we're, I want to make sure I have this right. We're going to approve with those corrections, April 24th, May 8th, not May 22nd. And yes, we are going to approve May 24th.
There's, just on May 22nd, Priscilla's comment on the last page is just cut off.
Needs to be added back in.
Just ends with an E, so there clearly was something more to that.
But we can hold on to this one until the next meeting then. Okay. All right, let's get a roll call on that. I need a motion to approve those.
Yep.
I thought
Well, you have a
we
mo-
did.
We already
You have
have
a motion, so you just need to,
Okay. So, Mike, how do you vote? We're approving it.
approve.
Yes.
We're
And,
approving the 24th, the 8th, and the 24th. Right?
correct, those three, and we're holding on to the 22nd. Mike is a yes. Arthur,
Yes.
all right. And, Tanya,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
No, Rob, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have, reports. Mr. Jim.
Is Sean?
Good, thank you.
I am.
Thank you. Yep. That's that. Yep.
Okay, I'm looking on page 1, which gives you a summary of the functions. And, you know, as we're heading towards the end of the year, things are tightening up a little more. And hopefully in the next 3 weeks, we'll kind of true up to where we are. At the bottom, you'll see there's two numbers. Looking straight on, it's 11,479 deficit. You're overexpended. But when I was looking at the on behalf payment, and that's what the state of Vermont pays to each district, each sending school that we send our vocational students to. It has to match the 18,418. If you turn to page 18, and I'm looking at line 5, that 265, 663. So that's what it has to balance out at. And so the revenue and the expense have to balance to that 265. So in the end, we're going to reduce somewhere in the expenses on the on behalf payment lines. We're going to reduce 18,000. So ultimately, right now, you've got somewhere about 7,000. So, and you know, again, I've got it listed by function, and you'll notice on the 2600s, and I'm looking at page 16 in particular, you'll see on line 45 and 46 where we've got repairs, some repairs that were done at the high school. And again, I mean, that's 195,000 over what we budgeted. So, and John, I'm not sure exactly what those repairs were, but it kicked us over somewhat. And those were the biggest, you know, you had some favorable, some unfavorable throughout. I think in the 2600, we're still at the areas where, you know, where we went a little bit adrift with the budget. On page 18, and this is what I had mentioned in previous financial reports. So on line 4, originally we budgeted for 143,000, which is 142,943. Everybody find that okay? Our page,
No, our pages are different.
Page 19, what you're talking
okay,
about.
sorry.
Because our page 1 is the cover.
Yep, well, mine is too.
Hmm.
Well, no, I take that back. It isn't. Sorry. Okay,
Jim, are you talking about the revenue page?
Revenue page.
That's page 19 on
Page-
our revenue page.
page,
Okay.
Because I lost you from the start of your. Site.
on the revenue page, thank you. Okay, page 19.
Thank you.
So this is still the same line, which is line 4. And in the original budget, there was a budget number of 142,943. Now, we think that maybe was tuitions, but unsure, undetermined right now. Well, so that's where we're short. We've had some other, if you look at lines 17, 18, 19, and 20, you'll see that there were some positives over and above the zero budget. So when we balance out, we're short on the revenue side, 113,000. So as we're starting to true up on the expense side, we'll see where we are, but we look like about 7,000. Revenue side, we're 113 short. Now, when we start to get disbursements of the SU, the 22 SU unreserved fund balance or surplus, we have the potential of getting about, and this is, I don't have the final numbers yet, but about 400,000. So you will have some determination with that 400, but as you can see, the budgets are starting to tighten up a little bit. And as we go down now, we're not having these $500,000 or $1 million of surplus monies anymore. So I just think we've got to be prudent and careful at what we do and how we do it.
What do you think that is, Jim? Inflation or what's going on? You said revenues are light.
I think Ron Smith, when this maybe it was back in 21, said, geez, you guys are over a lot of money on all of the budgeting. And I think he said, you know, you have to start to true that up. And I think I think in the past, budgeting, put together, they trued it up. So I think that, that we're there. And I will say this, the only district that really had kind of surplus, significant surplus was Westminster. They had about $500,000. So, and I said to him, I mean, it's sometimes nice to have a little wiggle room there because we don't know what might break down, what needs to be repaired or replaced. We do have 1.2 million in reserve now for facilities or whatever, I guess you want to put it towards. But that kind of gives you a scope of where we're at. Let's see next year. I think it'll be a tight, fairly tight budget as we go forward, unfortunately.
Is there anything else, Jim, before we open it up for questions?
I think that's it, and I've got the audit to hand out after.
Okay, so why don't we see if there's any questions first. Is there any questions for Jim? June?
I have a question on page 2. It looks like the athletics overspent $32,090.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk on that a little bit. Why are we over that much?
I think when the I think when the budgeting was done for athletics, you budgeted 0 at the middle school, and I think you were on the thin side certainly at athletics. I mean, when I look at what equipment did you buy? Was there even an equipment line in there? I'm not sure, but I don't think there was. So I don't think there was any typical normal budgeting process where the athletic director turned in and said, this is my coaching salary, this is my equipment that I need to replace, you know, the balls and supplies and that type of stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And I just thought of that as well. He does every year. But we did not allow for the 2 years of salary increases for coaches, which would be part of it. It's not all of it, but that would have a little bit of an impact on that.
So what are the
Because they're under the CBA, so the salaries went up
the coaches are
3% over the 2 years. And although we looked at it for professional staff, teaching wise, we didn't account for it there. So that's certainly part of the reason.
So you had a question?
Was that also some of the result of COVID when we didn't have a lot of the athletics and then all of a sudden we had some coming back in and so it was harder to budget?
I don't think
Did that have anything to do with it at all or not?
I mean, I'm just looking at this, there's $19,000, almost $20,000 over in health insurance. It's just,
And that's
what was originally budgeted was $7,600.
Oh,
You know, and then
that's a big chunk of
then
the
there's a line
32.
here where there's $31,500 that wasn't budgeted at all, so. So you've got some, it looks like a lot of that. But I, you know, like the benefits, like the HRA, the FICAs and all that stuff, a lot of that was way under,
Okay.
budgeted. So.
Good. Any other questions? Jim, I had a question, just in case, anybody in Zoom land or audience, needs to know. This financial report is just for the month or is it for the whole year, September to now?
That's up to June 9th.
Beginning of the school year to June 9th.
Right.
Okay.
So we've got 3 weeks left for the 30th and that's it.
And so if I was in the audience, are we in the red or are we in the black, overall as a school for the year compared to budget?
Right now, I just want to clarify because you've got about 7,000 on the expenditure side to the good. You've got 143,000 on the revenue side in a deficit. But when we true up the SU, I'm going to give you another 400,000. And so I mean, you'll be well balanced for sure.
So we're in the black.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure because it can be confusing, and so I'm
Yes.
sure everybody out there knows.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jim. Did you want to go over the audit next?
Well, I just pass it out and I don't want to rush you at all on this. You know, if you want to take it home and read it in your spare time.
Can we put it on next
Yeah.
agenda to approve, and then it'll give us 2 weeks?
Was this the audit that we tabled the last meeting?
I believe it said last meeting, we asked to have it printed for this meeting. I believe. We have to go back to one.
This is for last year.
Yes, 22, and I just want to clarify for you, because it's kind of a thick. And you may get the opinion that it's like a prospectus that you're reading through, you know, where there's a lot of stuff in it. This really is fairly simple because the school districts under GASB, which is the Government Standards Board, back in the 90s, they decided to put the normal business-like into the school districts and municipal districts. And I'm not sure that it's a good fit for the school district because, quite frankly, we've got about $33 million, 10 for furniture and equipment, 43 million total. Now, we are depreciating it, and you'll see how that depreciates on the depreciation page, but I don't care. And I mean, the normal instinct is, listen, this isn't like the municipal where I've got roads, millions of dollars of roads, infrastructure, water, sewer. I mean, so you're talking about, you know, $200 million out there in municipal land. But school districts typically don't get too involved with the depreciation. It's not a driving force. It's not something that when we look at the fund accounting, I don't bring it into the finances at all. I don't think it's necessary, but we have to follow GASB, and that's why the audit report is set up with it's the government-wide, and then it's the fund accounting. We're really concerned with the fund accounting, the general fund. How did we do? What's the ins and outs? Student activity funds, again, the same thing, because it's not owned by us. We have the fiduciary responsibilities. There's the federal funds as well. Much simpler, and I wish that's all that was presented to you, but I don't have a choice. So anyways, I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Jim, can I ask you to just to back up a little bit? So the audit, because we have 4 new board members, and it's ironic. I've only been here a couple of years, but I feel like an old person now. So when the that audit is for what year? Last year, correct? Or what we just
Last year.
So last June, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when is the next audit? When will that start, and when is that due to you?
On Monday, the auditor is coming in to do the pre-audit stuff. And the hope is that by the end of September, you will have a finalized audit. And we'll include those pages in your annual report and make it just much better.
And so, and we've been doing this for a little bit now, and our books are pretty clean nowadays, correct?
Yes.
I hope you say yes. Thank you. Trick question.
Took a long time to get there, and
Can you speak up?
June, you have a question?
I do. I believe her name was Sam. Was it Sam
Sam
from the
Ruggles.
auditor?
Sam Ruggles.
She had strongly encouraged us to put in the activities fund, is that it? And some other fund into are we gonna do that starting July 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you will, and you know, again, you've been on a long ride here to get back to normalcy. And, we're just turning a corner a little bit, doing that with student activities. And I just want to tell you, even though student activities can be a lot of cash, a lot of money that you're taking in, you know, yearbook and different fundraisers. Because it's not owned by us, we as the district can't borrow from those funds at all, not a dollar.
Right.
And again, we're turning the corner because it's the one place that an auditor will slap your hand something fierce. And those
Jim, hold on
funds,
one second. Mike, can you hit that screen behind you again?
Just double tap.
Sorry, Jim. Thanks, Rob.
so those funds though are, you know, and again, I try at the elementary level, I say, do you really need any activity funds? You sure? You know, and we give them $500 of petty cash for operation, which, you know, if you gotta buy stamps or something of that nature, there's the money. But student activities, you know, it not, I mean, it requires you to try out and reconcile on a monthly basis.
So if the school had a PTO, I know 100 years ago when I was in Westminster, we had a PTO that was responsible for all the fundraising to send the 6th grade to their end of the year trip and whatever else we needed to do.
Yeah.
Would that money now, whether or not they have a PTO, still have to go to the union, to this SU office?
PTOs separate,
Okay.
indistinct, and really, the school district can't have them, can't control them, no functionality of it. So they're separate. And I will say this, a lot of districts have the Sunshine Fund, which teachers will contribute $5, $10, you know, for flowers or something. And again, that is not part of your student activities. That's owned by somebody else. So it honestly is very clear cut of what has to happen. And again, you can't afford to fall on your face with not doing it correctly. So,
And student activity funds cannot be used for anything with a teacher. So like, if you were, you know, if the principal wanted to buy donuts for the teachers one day, you know, nice gesture and that, and you can't use student activity funds, and you can't, like, let me borrow from student activities, go buy from this, now I'm gonna take from this fund, pay this fund back. It's only supposed to be for students and.
So that would be what paid for the Boston trip today for the seniors, would be the student activity fund.
Potentially. Could also be something that was budgeted, and so it was like,
Oh.
so you gotta figure that's
Okay.
that's where it gets really messy, to be honest with you. That's why Jim's, I think, emphasizing this.
A project grad would be a parent, that's a parent done.
Yeah, we have our own
facility, so
504.
that's all by the parents, so that's not part of ours either, right?
and think of it this way, because it's simple. If the students are raising that money, you know, if it's something they collected from mom and dad and are bringing it in as a fundraiser, it's their money, not ours, it's not general fund money and has no connection to it. So, easy.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions?
Yeah, just, I know we're looking back in history, the 1.7 million in cash that was on the balance sheet back from this statement. What's that number today? Ballpark. And the reason I'm asking is obviously we've started to see some banks tripping with interest rates coming up. What are we doing to kind of protect that cash? Do we have it at one bank? Do we have it spread over a handful of banks? Or
We don't need it spread because there's a collateralization agreement that we have with Mascoma. So FDIC does it up to, I think it's a quarter.
250 for an individual
So,
account.
but they may channel it out each night to
Okay,
50 different other banks, so it's all insured.
Okay.
Under FDIC.
Good question. Thanks, Mike. Any other questions for Jim? All right, seeing none. Jim, thank you for your time and
Thank you.
have a safe travel home.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, up next, I have principal reports. Mr.
Okay.
Bradley.
Okay, and I'll attempt to speak loudly. Very straightforward tonight. First one up there is PCB testing. We started today, the two young guys were in today setting up if you look at them, they're like little red coolers. They're measuring what's in the air, and they measure it for, I think, 24 hours, then they come and they take those out. They're gonna move through the building. They're doing the auditorium and this end first because of last night and stuff going on. They should be done by Wednesday. It goes back in, test results. I'm speaking with them today. Usually get back to the state by week 3. We could hear as soon as week 4 or week 5 from the state, because the state want to analyze them first, and if there's anything negative, they're going to work out a plan before they then report back to the school. But we're following all the guidelines. I'll put the fact sheet in there as well for those to have a look at it, and actually meant to put it on. We should put it on the website as well. We did send it out to parents in our notification as well. A point that I wanted to clarify for a little while now is I think back on April 10th meeting, the News and World Reports, it was, I know that as a board, we look at those as one factor to measure our school rankings. And, you know, there was comments made of how we're doing, and we've slipped one rank in our rankings, and, you know, what's going on. Well, I was kind of muffled by that. So it didn't sit well with me, because I know that last year, like, our graduation rate was 91%, highest it's been in the last 2 decades. Our enrollment is inclining. Our AP scores were the second best, third best in the last 10 years. So I was like, wait a minute, there are 3 of the 6 factors that, you know, that are measured. And I contacted a few people from News and World, and it kind of made me feel a little bit silly, because I didn't even read the small print either. But what they did, because of the COVID, they've averaged the data, and the actual rankings were based on the 2019 and 2020 data. And then it was averaged, and it was spread across those 2 years. And the hope is that as we get back to normal now, we're going to have accurate testing and accurate results. So slipping that one point is really, it's kind of false. I'm not saying we would have gone up. I don't know, but I know it's looked upon as one of the major points of ranking us. So hopefully, as we come through that, you know, we will get credit for the very good FY22 that we had. So I just wanted to bring that up and make a point about it. Jazz Ensemble, they performed in Burlington on Friday in Church Street. The guys went up there and played well and had a good time and enjoyed it, and represented as well at the festival up there. Class night and graduation this week. Hopefully graduation, the rain is looking like it's moved closer and further away. This morning we had 40% rain on Thursday. And then this afternoon, no rain on Thursday. So it's looking good, hopefully, to be outside, but we will keep you informed. Class night's going to be held in Hadley Field at 7 p.m. And then, sorry, class night is not going to be held in Hadley Field. Class night is going to be held in the auditorium, and it could be there. And we plan to give out our normal awards. And this year, with the green and gold, which is the UVM scholarship, it's going to be well over 200,000 that all of our students will collect, which is pretty phenomenal. Then on Thursday, graduation, Hadley Field, followed by a car parade through town. And then students will return. It's a fairly busy night for our kids, actually. Return for project graduation celebrations. And again, all board members are welcome, and we'd love to see you there. So finishing the year strong, just wanted to let people know, the superintendent, and I have spoken, and I know Jenny has spoken to me as well, that the request was for us to be done on June 21 and out, not done, but out of the building on June 21, when everyone else is done. And again, I plan to use up some of my remaining vacation days to see out to June 30th. Then I've been working a fair little bit with Kelly as much as we can day to day, other than day-to-day operations getting in the way, to try and bring her up to as much speed as we can on different areas. You know, if something pops up, I will run through and say, "Hey, Kelly, got a minute?" She's normally doing something else, but she will stop, and then we talk. So my hope is to transfer as much knowledge as I can in that time frame. Spring sports, final records for all interested. Varsity baseball were 8-8, and they lost in the quarterfinals in an elongated game with Thetford, who went on to win the states in Division 3. JV baseball were 2-7. Softball, a remarkable year, 9-7. And they lost in the semifinals to a very good Oxbow team who haven't lost for a long time. They haven't given up many runs, and you know they're pretty good. And our girls went up and did a great job. Even though they lost, they held their heads up, and they had, after the initial 3 innings, I think they played them to a fairly level game. Or I was told they played them to a fairly level game. JV softball finished strong. They were 3-6. Girls tennis were 2-11, and they lost in the first round. Girls track, girls were 3rd out of 13 in Division 3. And really, when you think we took 12 girls to a state meet, when I got there, the winners, White River, I thought they had brought their whole school. You know, they had about 60 odd kids because they had this bright yellow uniform and you couldn't miss them. I was like, "Oh, is everybody doing track and field?" Because they had about 60 kids. So I was very proud of the girls. The young men were 6 out of 13 in Division 3. Overall, though, the performances individually and even collectively, our girls 4x100 were state champions, and they just got better as the season went on. As you followed them all the way along, and they peaked right at the right time. Colby Dearborn, God bless her, he ran his heart out. He was not letting that guy get past him on the 300 hurdles. And that's a tough race. And then on the, oh my goodness, the 100 meters hurdles, Brendan Keller, he won by a very short nose, but again, just the sheer determination, he wasn't letting that person get him. And so we had three state championships individually, which is very good. So, and then this weekend, got that in there as well. Laura, I forgot to put what it was. It was a discus. Laura Campbell placed 15th in New England, representing us there. And I spoke to her this morning, and you know, she said, "Well, you know, I had one of those days. I didn't really do as good as I could have done." So I just said to her, 15th in New England. That's pretty good. So that's all I have. As I say, class night and graduation this week. Please, if you are available, turn up and turn out. And the kids love to see you there, and I love to see you there. And I think it's good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for Mr. Burley? Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm taking note of the fact that PCB update comes up again under buildings and grounds. But John, I'm interested. I did hear you say that they were taking air samples.
Yes.
And given the fact that air is only one component of PCBs overall, so for instance, it's alleged to be very prevalent in the glazings for glass from the period of time this building was built, and we got a lot of it. I am interested as to how thorough it is going to be. Burlington, to bring them up here, but not only did they have heavy PCB contamination within their building, they also had heavy PCB contamination on their grounds as well, which I believe is why they're looking at a roughly 20 or $22 million remediation before they can start thinking new school. So do you know how extensive the PCB surveying is going to be?
Well, they visited, I believe, Andy, was it about a month ago or 6 weeks ago? And they did the first part, which was the taking inventory, the scraping, the looking and stuff. I didn't get in the way, so I can't tell you exactly what they did, but I've got to presume they know what they're doing.
Also, this is the second round.
And then this
Okay,
is the
understood
air
now.
sampling round, and again, they're trying to be sensitive to us and our needs and kids and people in the building. But again, when you go out there, you can see it looks like a little red lunchbox, and it's got a pump in it, and it's sucking the air, and it's going into the little swab that they use there. Or is there one over there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, there you go.
I think also what they did when they came there the first time is they walk the building and look at the building and look at where the highest potential levels could be. And then that's what they target for where they're doing the air samples. And the air samples, if they were to detect any in the air, and it was in whatever the range would be, then that's where they come back and they work with us on, is it, now do we need to look at the glazing? So they need to know, are even PCBs prevalent in the air? And then they'll go and look at certain specific areas. So they're not, it kind of, from the way they describe to me, you know, like asbestos, if it's sitting and contained, it's not so much an issue. It's when you start to disturb it, it's an issue. So first they want to know, is it in the air? Then if it's in the air, then they look at where are those areas that would be the high likelihood of PCBs being prevalent. So there'll be another phase of then coming back and looking at specific, is it in glazing? Is it in the mastic that holds the borders of it, stuff of that nature, so.
Anything else, Mr. Clark? Good. All right, anybody else? I just would like to say thank you for everything you've done over the years, and I'm sure that I'll definitely be seeing you around in town, and don't be a stranger, okay?
I'll know you with that. Yeah, okay.
All right, so next up we have committees, and I was I was just hoping that maybe Andy could touch on all of these for us and kind of review them for us, and then maybe go through the buildings and grounds, and then if we have questions, you can stop and ask, and then go on to the next, if that's okay.
Yeah, I can. Buildings and grounds, we haven't met for a while. But one of the big projects, well, a few of the big projects that came out of there was the science wing. So today, sorry. Excuse me. So today, the SU board approved the bid for a construction management company. We had to apply for a bid waiver, so we'll have to wait for the state to approve that. But once we have a construction management company, they will start working with the subcontractors to bid out certain projects. So our biggest project here at this building that we know has the most lead time that we need to have is the HVAC system. I believe Steve said that units are about 30 months. Did he say 30 months out?
Yep.
30 months out,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we're trying to speed
Or
that
30
up.
weeks.
30 weeks, thank
30
you, yeah,
weeks.
30 months, I was thinking months is too long.
Yeah.
So 30 weeks out, you know, so, and we know that that's gonna be the most, disruptive. The other one is the science wing, which, we're at I think that we're gonna be reviewing the, overall plan again with the architect who will then, we've asked her to come to your next board meeting, or we'll be asking her to come to your next board meeting. So I got two projects going in my head. But just to show you kind of overview of what those projects will look like before we start into elevations and stuff of that nature, because elevations will cost, there's a cost in elevations. And then, so those are the two real big projects. I mean, Steve has indicated he would really like to get going on both of those this summer. So that is something we're trying to really work on. We're also working on, beginning the work on the driveway and the parking lot, because there needs to be an engineering study that goes into that and some of that nature. So, Steve has begun that work. That is slated for next summer. So we'd like to get all the heavy stuff done, as far as cranes coming in, dropping off units on the roof, before we then go and put in a new driveway. Why muck it up after the fact? So, so the sequence of events, what we're trying to do is to do the HVAC system, then do the roof, then do the driveway. So that's the sequence of events. I think the other piece that's come up quite a bit is that the tennis courts and the track surface. I think those are things that we'll need to come back to look at and try and get a plan together. I think it'll be important. I've asked every school to do this, to put together a 5-year capital improvement plan based on a lot of the work that the engineers did. We had a company come in and provide every school. They did a complete engineer overhaul with a 10-year layout of when things need to be replaced. And so that should be part of the capital improvement plan so that we can kind of budget for those things. So if we know that there's something's coming up, let's say we know all the clocks are going to go. I don't know. I looked up some clock. How much is that going to cost to replace all the clocks at once? And so then we can budget for that. And then the other big project that we have going is the cameras and door systems. And so that is underway currently. And so there was rewiring that had to happen in most of our buildings. I believe in this building, some rewiring had to happen. And then this building was a little further ahead with they already had the fob system on some of the doors. And so there might be some other door fobs that go in. But then it's putting a lot more cameras in or in around so that we can have better security with the cameras. The next phase of that will really be a discussion around all of the doors. There are 44 doors in this facility. 45. 45. Okay, thank you. So, and to have some kind of a device that would somehow send a signal to a computer somewhere that, so you can see what door opened up kind of thing is very expensive. To put screamers on doors. And so those are the kind of when you push the push bar, the panic bar, it goes off, but that has a battery in it. So if someone goes by and inadvertently or purposefully hits it, you've got that issue to deal with. But we need to really take a look at that because there's 45 exits out of this building. It's a lot of exits. And it's a lot of opportunity. It's a lot of opportunity to have things propped open. I think then the third phase from a security perspective would be looking at, just as June, the comment you're making, I'm assuming, is just how vulnerable glass is and what can we do to enhance all of that glass. When we looked into pricing to put a film on glass that is considered ballistic rated, and that is up to 3 9mm bullets, was about $85 to $100 a square foot. And then if you were to look to put the next level up, is basically bulletproof glass. It's like an inch or whatever thick. Now you're talking about all your housings and everything would have to come out and be replaced. So that's those are the real big projects. We're still need to look at upgrading the auditorium, potentially the gym floor. Those were areas, and then after the science wing would be looking at all of the academic area and how do we want to approach it. We had asked the architect to kind of conceptualize. And they conceptualized with new dividers, to allow us to still have the flexibility as an open concept school. That is twice the amount of putting up walls. So, I think if we were gonna get into really having that discussion, we would really want to have a much bigger community discussion about which way we want to go. So,
Thank you.
Andy, one question about that. If we get into that, will that affect the HVAC system? If we're looking at, or is it so many years down the road that it's,
I think we're probably so many years down the road, with the science wing, it's not such an issue to put up walls, because we're already going into it with the HVAC system intact, or we're having to do the work at the same time. I think that would be something to really consider, how much change would have to happen. In talking with Steve, the sprinkler system would not be such an issue. That's what my head went with, the sprinkler system, but, and so it may be a deterrent, a reason we would have to do it.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm gonna recognize, public, Amanda.
Samantha Damaris. Just an innocent question. All these big changes and everything, how do you do that with school in session? Or is this all supposed to, because you were saying the parking lot next year, like next summer, but we have all these steps. I'm just thinking, if there's not a crane outside tomorrow, how are you gonna get all done during the summer?
So that, it's not gonna get done during the summer. It's
So
gonna,
how do you do it with school in
yeah.
session?
So that's why we have a project manager who is our owner's rep, who works on our behalf with the construction company. When we say, you know, if the construction company says, oh, we're bringing in a unit at 8 o'clock, the principal says, no, you're not. And the owner's rep goes to the construction company and says, no, you're not bringing it in on this time. You're coming in at this time. And so they work to make that run smoothly. The companies that Steve Horton has worked with and Hutter, which is the one that was awarded the construction management, have done schools before while they're in session. So that's what we were looking for, was someone who can orchestrate this. When we're looking at the science wing, you build a divider wall. So you create a barrier that has a negative barrier that's pulling the air out. So you don't have any air coming into the rest of the, and you continue to operate the same way you always have. So
I'm just thinking that it's gonna be really hard on the students if there's a lot of like hammering and screw guns and missing roof and stuff.
there's not gonna be a missing roof, and and when you put up, I've worked in a building that was under construction, you would not even have known construction was going on the other side of the wall. And they were driving tractors around inside the building. So that's all taken into consideration because we have to operate school. So.
Thank you.
Andy, thank you for all the work you've done with this. I do just have a couple quick questions about what you were talking about. So you mentioned a 5-year capital improvement plan. So will that be Kelly's responsibility with you, or how is that gonna work?
Yeah, that would be, so typically what we've asked is each building to work with their maintenance crew, but also their teachers in developing that plan. And then we would, as an SU, support that plan, but we're looking to have a bigger plan that just says we will have plans, but it's really a building level plan of what needs to happen. So.
And last question, actually 2 questions. That report from today, is that something that can be distributed to the high school board? They
have it.
Oh, we do. Okay.
We send it out to all boards on Friday.
Okay. Thank you. And then so under letter C, for next meeting, I'm assuming that we want to fill the buildings and grounds. And then is there any little summer projects that are scheduled? Like I'm just looking at the behind that screen, like is that wall staying? Do you know? Can we paint that? You know what I mean? Is that something that we can look at? Or?
I'm sure it's something we can look at. I can't tell you if anything's planned. I'm not aware of anything. John, are you aware of anything that's planned as far as projects around?
No.
I don't know of any painting schedule or
other than just general maintenance.
Okay. I just want to give the impression that we're constantly moving forward, and I think what we're doing is great. We're definitely investing back into the school and the community. I just want to make sure that we're, sometimes it's, like, for example, if we, in my line of work, if we go and clean your, do a periodic maintenance on your boiler or furnace, but if the technician doesn't wipe down the outside of the boiler or furnace, the customer will be like, you never cleaned it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I did.
No, I know.
You know what I mean?
I think that'll be something so we're also in the process of, it'll come up later, but we're in the process, we still have to hire a head of maintenance for the building. And so it'll be really kind of walking around with some fresh eyes. I'm looking up here, seeing a few stained tiles.
Yeah.
Like, how do we replace those? What's our process for replacing those tiles and getting on some kind of a schedule? So that gets down to like a day-to-day as opposed to a 5-year plan, right? Because that's really, what are we doing? But there should be, in my opinion, some type of schedule for a paint rotation. We're gonna paint certain areas of the building on a regular basis, so that every summer we know certain areas are done.
Great.
So,
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions for Strauss? All right, Andy, hiring committees, please.
So, athletic director, so we had a committee that met, I think we interviewed, me and I knew 4 individuals. Yeah, 4 individuals. And we made an offer to a gentleman, Connor Bean, who's a current athletic director from up north. I will not get the name of the district right, so I apologize, but he's originally from the Windsor area, very familiar with our area. And so he was really excited about taking the job. And so he'll be coming down. He's gonna have a little stutter start a little bit just because he's got to move down. But we're looking forward. He's got a lot of great ideas about how to grow some programming and offering for students, not only at the high school, but all the way down to elementary. He's currently at a K-12 school where they have competitive offerings for students even at the elementary level. And, and sometimes that's just working it out like, hey, Central is going to play Westminster in soccer or something like that. But just something that's to really start generating. A lot of our conversations were about feeder programs and how do we build feeder programs so that kids are excited about playing. And he talked about a bowling program that he developed up where he is, and it's not something we always talk about, but how a lot of kids might access that type of thing. We also talked about unified sports, and I'll squirrel here for a second. I don't know how many people are familiar with unified sports. Unified sports is typically students who might have intellectual disabilities. They compete with students who don't have intellectual disabilities. That's the best way to put that. And it's typically it's basketball and track are the 2 real big ones. There is a fall sport. I think soccer is the fall sport. It's highly competitive. We're one of a few schools in this area that don't actually have a team, but it creates lasting bonds for all the people who are involved in it. And so I think Connor talked about it, and I think it'll be something that if we can get it off the ground will be really great for our entire student body and our community. So just really some new exciting ideas. So I don't know, Roger.
Have we offered?
Sorry?
Have we offered?
Offered, signed,
Okay.
and on the way. So
we're gonna approve that tonight?
you don't have to approve it. It's an at-will contract.
Okay, gotcha.
Great. Athletic trainer.
So, yeah, sorry, I forgot this is all me. So the athletic trainer, will be interviewing, we wanted to get the director on board. I don't know if I can get Ian or Connor down, for those interviews, but we're gonna interview, next Wednesday.
Next?
Next Wednesday coming up, this Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm
Okay,
like,
this Wednesday.
Yeah, this Wednesday, sorry.
The next one's.
That's the next Wednesday.
Okay, all right. Well, I just had to have it right, because
It's Friday. today,
Nicole
isn't it?
just talked to me.
Yeah, no, so we're gonna be interviewing Wednesday, for athletic trainer. You know, so hopefully we'll have someone on board for the start of the fall season here. So that's happening. Girls basketball coach, I'm not 100% sure about that. I know it's not posted at this time. But we didn't get anything from Ian to post it. So I guess we'll have to get that posted. And then as far as open staff positions, so as John had mentioned, and one of the things we will be bringing to you just a little later, Jenny McKay has submitted her letter of resignation. So we're in the process of advertising for an assistant principal position. Also the choral position is currently posted. And then health teacher is posted, the driver's ed and the tech position, all are posted. We are getting no applicants in those areas. I've had a couple of conversations with Ms. O'Ryan, and I'm gonna ask her to speak just on some of those, because I think she has some ideas, but just on the driver's ed, so everyone knows, the state rule is that we either have to have a teacher, and if we don't have a teacher, we can either contract with a company to provide it, or we can provide students with a voucher. And then they go off on their own and do it. It's a no cost to students. So we kind of looked it up. We talked about it a little bit today, and just did some real brief, looking into it. It's about $1,000 for a student to go out on their own and do it. With the number of students that we have that need to access driver's ed, we wouldn't even fully dip into the full salary of what a teacher would cost us if we were to give vouchers and have them go out. So we got to unpack that a little bit. I want to look at some other schools that do it that, either way, either they contract or they do the voucher, and kind of look at their procedures for doing that before we kind of come forward with how we're going to do it.
So the driver's ed position, I thought we had posted was for the summer, but it's not.
So
It's for the,
we have two. So we were trying to get someone for
Okay.
summer because we have a lot of kids that want it.
right.
And so we tried to have someone for summer. Right now we've been panning out with the person that we thought was going to. And then we also had one posted for the full year.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware that he had resigned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions for Andy?
Can Mr. Ryan just speak to a couple of those things?
Mr. Ryan, if you feel
Sure,
comfortable, go right ahead.
sure. I would just say that I've had some preliminary conversations with the guidance counselor team to better understand kind of their needs from a staffing and student scheduling perspective. So we're all, I think, optimistic that we'll be able to find great folks to fill these roles, but I've been working with that team to really figure out kind of what's their go, no-go date. Obviously, if they need to change student schedules because we're unable to hire someone, when do they need to know by to give them the time that they need to consult the students and families to make those changes? So we're having those types of conversations. I'd also note that I've had some preliminary conversations with some area school leadership, just to kind of get a sense of what open needs they may have, and if there's any opportunity for some creative collaboration on some of these roles where it may be feasible to do so. So I would say, again, it's very early on, but those conversations have started. And keep you posted.
Great. I think the other that we've talked about a little bit is with the assistant principal role and the timing of the year. Would there be an opportunity if we were to look at the potential of a dean of students and maybe either do a simultaneous posting to see if that maybe generates a little bit more. Typically with a dean of students or with an assistant principal, you're looking for someone who's got their certification or is eligible for that certification. And dean of students might be someone who's in a program working towards that. And so there's little financial differences also. But so we've looked at we're just kind of trying to brainstorm of ways that we might, be able to, potentially, bring in some qualified candidates.
Any other questions for Mr. Ryan or Andy? All right. Okay, new business for discussion, action, resignation and appointments. So Andy, do you want to talk about the board chair position, or do you want to fill them in, or I can, whatever you.
Well, yeah, I think, no, thank you. So, I mean, as you are all aware, at our, special board meeting, last week, Molly Bannock, who was the board chair, submitted her letter of resignation. She feeling like she needed to move on to do other things. And we were all, I shouldn't say we all, I will say on my behalf, I was disappointed that she made a choice to resign. But given that, we looked into things just, so in a union district, so you are a union district, not a regular district, because you have members, equal number of members from each town. So that position goes back to a conversation with the select board of Westminster, for them to offer up a suggestion or a name, and then it would be this board's decision to bring, to vote that person in. So we've already had those conversations. I know Darcy's already had them and Nicole's had them with the town. So it is a person from Westminster. I don't know if you have more on that or.
No,
Okay.
just that we reached out to them and.
Okay, and that's for a regular board position.
Right, that's, okay. And then as far as the chair, we tried to do some research just, and get some understanding. There is, not a lot of clarity in Robert's rules. And I, was asked to reach out, and I reached out to legal, and your legal counsel, basically said the same thing, is that there's not a lot of clarification, that the job does fall to the vice chair. So,
Andy, I did find one place where it specifically said it goes to the vice chair, so I can't remember where it was, because I didn't know that was gonna come up tonight.
So for, to clarify, I was,
Here it is, 4728.
right, so it says that, basically I'm the chair, correct, or so?
It says in case of the president's resignation, death, or removal, the vice president automatically becomes president for the remainder of the term unless the bylaws expressly provide otherwise for filling a vacancy in the
Right.
office of.
So we don't have to vote, that's basically what I'm saying.
According to that one, but I understand where Andy's coming from, because I do know there was only one other place in Robert's rules, and I didn't find it though, where it said the other way, but.
Right. So
It does say that.
for the next topic, so we have to fill Molly's positions. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to, part of what I want to try to do is have good communication and thoughtful communication. So what I'm requesting is that if you have an interest in any of the things that she was on, please email me, and then I will appoint somebody at the next meeting. So up for appointments would be the vice chair, a warrant signer, buildings and grounds. I'm not sure if we actually need somebody for that. We have 4 currently on a committee: Mike, Rob, David, and myself. We would need somebody for the budget committee, and then a voting member for the WNESU. So again, I just want to really take it into consideration, really think about it, and do what's best for all stakeholders. So I think that's the way I would like to do it. So thank you. The next thing up is
So do you fill vice chair actually tonight, if you know, but if you
Excuse
don't.
me, Priscilla, can you speak up? Because you're.
Yeah, I said we could actually have, do any of those tonight if anybody knows, if
yeah,
Jason was willing.
yeah. I think I'd like to. I think I'd like to wait. I don't I'm not leaving anytime soon. And so I'll be here. And actually, if I think the rules state if I'm not here and the vice chair is not here, then next up would be the,
Clerk,
no, I think it'd be,
I think the clerk takes over and then.
yeah, the
Clerk
clerk,
take
sorry,
over,
yeah.
And they.
Darcy.
ask
That would be you, Darcy.
somebody to be Pro tem for that night.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's what I read, and there's a lot of rules out there, so it's hard to keep up with them. I'm not a speed reader, that's for sure.
If I may, I mean, I think some of the ones that are, just more, pressing, warrant signers are, you know, it would be great to get those, that person in, that's probably, and then just the SU board.
Yep.
Just because that would balance it out.
Yeah, so I think we're having our next meeting in just a couple weeks, so we'll.
But don't we need that one right away?
the
Because we have-
SU
we
board
have
is
one
next
coming up.
week, next Wednesday.
So even if Molly's not on that, if Molly's no longer on that, we still have enough members in their quorum, so
Yeah,
we're
right.
in good shape.
I'm just, didn't want them to lag out there, so.
Yeah, so email me and I'll take it under careful consideration. David,
Chair does not need to wait for the next meeting to make his or her appointments.
that's correct. I don't.
You have
But
a
it-
timetable now.
I don't. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I'd like to get your input and then I will request that somebody does it. Thank you. Okay,
I am concerned about the warrant signer. I think you really need to go ahead with the warrant signer, because I'm sure we have a warrant that's coming up before our next meeting.
noted for someone. Thank you. Next up is norms, expectations, board and super. Rob, did you want to speak to that?
Sure, that we're doing the principal contract first, but, so being a new board member over the last couple of months, I think this board has had some struggles, in terms of communication, in terms of things that are going on in the community, and as a person that likes to solve issues, would love an opportunity to have a subcommittee from this group meeting with our superintendent to just work on norms and expectations. And it is not a lengthy process like it would be curriculum, but for me, it's really about getting off on the right foot, learning how and understanding how to best support each other. In addition, I feel it would help provide clarity, especially for maybe some new board members, maybe some existing ones, I'm not sure. But I feel like if we can spend a little bit of time this summer to get off on the right foot, with some norms and expectations and sort of relationship building so that we feel like we are, a team and unified in moving forward in terms of how we communicate, providing transparency to the community. I would like us to consider that. And again, it could be a meeting or two at the most, but I think it would help us figure out maybe what are some of the issues, what are some of the common things that we can all agree on that would be beneficial as we move forward.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, I think that's a good idea to take a look at, and I think that's something we should definitely think about considering and try to improve on that. And I agree with you, the communicate, that's gonna be one of my goals, is to not only better communicate myself, but better communicate with the public, administration, faculty, students, all of that, because I think it's, I think we always can improve our communication. I think that's,
So I'd like to make a motion to be able to get a subcommittee together.
okay. There's a, motion on the floor to put together a subcommittee. Don't think we need a second, correct?
Don't need a second.
All right, so,
You actually didn't, you don't need a motion, you can appoint, and just say you're gonna do an ad hoc committee, but a motion works just as well too, so.
okay.
But you have a motion, so you have to vote on it, or you have to have discussion.
So Rob has put on the, a motion to, create a subcommittee to review, relationship building, norms and expectations of board and the superintendent. Do I have that correct, Rob? Okay. All right, so looks like we're gonna be voting.
I have a question about,
Yeah, let's, so next we have to open up for discussion, right?
Okay.
Sorry. All right.
so, the subcommittee, are you looking for, the subcommittee would have actual minutes and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Or are you looking for 2 or 3 board members to slide under the minutes rule and,
No, I think,
get everything
And
hashed out?
any committee of the board
Yeah.
has to, is open meeting, even if it's under
The
your quorum.
quorum, okay,
Any committee
okay,
is a,
okay.
it's open meeting.
I would volunteer to be on that committee.
I've got a question because.
Hold on, Priscilla. Mr. Clark had his hand up.
Oh, and he just answered.
Okay, thank you, David. Priscilla, go ahead.
To me, expectations and norms is a whole board thing that we all need to be working on. So I'm just not quite sure what the committee would be doing.
Yeah, I think
I'm
the
just, you know, because to me, I mean, the superintendent is hired by the SU board. So that's, all of those things come under the SU board, and this is
yeah, this
our
isn't, this is.
buildings and increasing communication and working with the superintendent is for all of us to do. So I'm just,
Good question. I think the subcommittee would be doing a little bit of the heavy lifting of getting feedback from all of our board members, and then also meeting with Andy to get his feedback, and then we would bring something for the whole board to look at as we move forward.
So I guess my one question would be, what would be the charge of that subcommittee?
To come up with a list of things that could be unified in our approach in terms of how we're gonna conduct and have norms and expectations together moving forward.
Yeah, that's actually something the board is supposed to do when they form. So when you form a new board in March, you're supposed to create your norms and create your goals at that time.
Okay, so
I-
norms and goals would be the same,
Nope, they're different.
okay,
Goals are things you want to achieve, and
Right,
norms
okay.
are what Rob's talking about, how we interact with each other. I mean, communication, all those things, there's supposed to be 8 hours of training that the board chairs are supposed to go through by statute. It conflicted with an SU night. I know it was the BSBA, and, I know David's position.
They
with
always
the
did
BSBA.
6, Andy.
Sorry?
They always did 8 hours training and 6. They included dinner as part of that training. I took 6 hours altogether.
I know Cheryl, Charles and I have talked about, continuing that, some more tailored PD, around, because we have to do that 8 hours, that's statute, and we have, we're trying to put together a schedule to invite any board member who wants to come, not just board chairs.
like
I think-
at the last SU meeting where he,
Right, yes, but much more directed of like specific, like it might be a norms thing, so we can ask the lawyer to come in and just help kind of
So
facilitate
hopefully
that
he
too,
could-
as a much bigger than just this board.
learned.
But
how
I
to
think
run
what you're
his-
talking about is what you need to do
I
anyway.
think, yeah, I think that brings up a great point, because I'm new and I haven't seen anything since I've been here.
Yep.
I also think as any of us rotate off and new ones come in, we have a living document to at least draw from. And then say, okay, we need to look at this, and then we can adjust as whoever the new board is to figure out those new norms and expectations. But I haven't seen any living document that we have as a board for those, if that makes sense.
There's a guidelines to new board members. Did you get a copy of that? Did you guys get a copy of that?
Yeah, I handed this out to all new board members. Is this what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, to be honest, I just read that a couple weeks ago and it taught me a lot. I learned a lot from that, so I don't know if we wanna put that in
That'd
there.
be great stuff to pull together as we're doing it.
So
Absolutely.
if I may, Andy is basically a consultant for our board, and he works technically for the WNESU, correct? That's your immediate supervisor.
Correct.
So he advises us, or we advise him to do things on our behalf. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, so to speak, yeah, no.
Which one, yes, sir?
No, I think this board having, establishing some norms and some guidelines for themselves is not a bad thing. I, you know, as far as, because there's, I think, differences of opinion on certain aspects. You know, as far as, communication and how communication should happen. But I think, you know, one of the things we try to do when we have meetings with, as administrators, or when we have it with teachers, is that's the first thing we do is establish norms. And then we try to go back to them and talk about them and say, hey, remember our norms, and then we deviate from them as administrators and as educators, and so we have to remind ourselves and come back to those norms, so.
So is it kind of like ground rules when they do negotiations? Okay. And we don't have that anywhere else? Don't have that, because ground rules,
Well, we're certainly not gonna throw things at each other and get in fist fights and stuff like that. I think we've all agreed on that. That would be a norm, though, is that we're going to speak to each other respectfully, and some of those are unwritten norms, but then, you know, something of the nature that we tend to, it kind of goes slipping and sliding is on an email, right? If an email gets sent out and it goes to all board members, and then someone hits reply all, and you start getting on the slippery slope towards open meeting laws. And so trying to get everyone on that same page, I think that there's could be some real positive from that, so.
right, I understand that. Carson?
Is this something that we should do like as a board retreat? Or start with a committee?
Good question. Well, why don't we do this?
You know,
Why don't we see how the vote goes, and then
Okay.
if that's something I want to do, and so I create a committee, I can still do that regardless. If we vote yes or no. Well, if you vote yes, then we do, and if we vote no, I still can. I think that's what every day. Priscilla?
I agree with Darcy. It should be a retreat where all of us are involved, because that's like Andy said, that's norms and expectations, what you're supposed to do in the first meetings. And that is a whole board discussion. And if you don't have the whole board discussing it, you're getting fragmented. And you're not getting to the, all of that stuff. I really feel like it should be all of us together.
And I don't care which way we go. I brought it up because I think it's important to have.
Yeah.
So whatever way we want to go as a board, I'm all for that, but that's important. I think it's very important work.
So could we
Go ahead.
piggyback a board retreat with the norms, coming up with norms and roles and everything, and goals? Because I'm really stuck, some of my reading a couple weeks ago, we're supposed to do that at the reorganizational meeting every year, and I'm going on my 14th month and we haven't done that yet.
Well, hopefully maybe I can answer you, is I am committed to doing some of the heavy lifting that Molly has already started, as far as doing more retreats and talking about curriculum and all those things that we've worked really hard to get the ball going. And I hope that's the direction I want to keep going, is moving that boulder up the hill every single meeting, every single day. So I'm definitely committed to that. So, anyway, any other questions? All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Let me repeat it, make sure I got it one more time. Motion on the floor is to create a subcommittee for norms and expectations, with relationship building to get back to the superintendent. Is that right, Kyle?
Should we amend that to be a board retreat for the whole board instead?
Why don't we vote on
If Rob wants to accept that as an amendment.
that is right.
As a friendly amendment, I assume.
Yes, I would gladly do it as a friendly amendment if Rob likes that.
Yes, I will take the motion off the table as long as we make our due diligence to make this happen. And I don't want to take away from all of our work that's going on with our goals of curriculum and meeting with everyone. The reason for the sort of subcommittee was to allow a few of us to collect feedback from everyone, so that we're not, to try to get all of us on the same time to meet is tough. So the reason for that was to have a committee of, say, 3, and get all feedback from the board, meet with the superintendent, get feedback there, and then bring everything to this board to be either voted on or amended to say, hey, we need to change this. But I think the reason I was looking at it is the initial meeting of getting 3 people to do a little bit more work like we have with our buildings and grounds committee. I think there's a lot of that heavy lifting that can help move us forward, making sure that everyone's opinion and everyone's thoughts are taken into consideration as we do it.
So I just want to make sure I got you. So now we're taking the motion off the floor and we're just gonna promise to do those things through a retreat. Basically.
I would like to keep the motion on the floor for right now.
Keep the motion on the floor with the friendly amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Priscilla, can you repeat the motion for me, please?
Well, what I was saying was that we would, set up so that we had you said expectations for the superintendent and the board and do it as a group thing. And maybe, the same retreat that we did goals so that we've got specifics all sitting there. Because if you're hearing another person at the same time, you can come out with more ideas than you can if you're just emailing to somebody. That's why was my suggestion. I just come up with better ideas listening to you guys.
Good. All right. So are we ready to vote? All right.
So can I have clarification on what we're voting on? You didn't accept her friendly amendment, correct?
I'm keeping the motion on the floor.
Okay,
And so I said an amendment to have all of us meet so that we have
so we have to vote on his,
we have to vote on the amendment.
and then,
We have to vote on the amendment first, correct?
oh, okay.
Okay. So Mike, we are voting on Priscilla's amendment, friendly amendment to Rob to, Priscilla, I'm sorry, one more time, please, to
meet as in a board retreat to do expectations for the superintendent / board so that we can hear everybody's ideas.
okay.
Yes, I would vote to support the retreat. I do not support the thought of another committee because to me, committee is a dirty word. I prefer that we do not load up the.
So hold on, time out. I just want to, so right now we're
Yeah.
voting on
You gotta vote on one first, okay?
Priscilla's amendment.
I would vote yes on Priscilla's amendment
Okay.
to make it a retreat.
Okay. Darcy,
Yes.
Tanya.
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Rob,
Abstain.
and David.
Well, actually, I'm voting no, because I think we can vote.
All right, so I have it, and I'm gonna vote on no also. So I have it as, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses. 3,
Six, right?
Mike, I'm sorry, Mike voted yes. 6 yeses, 2 noes, 1 abstain. Okay, so motion passes. Now the next, motion on the floor.
Yeah,
That
so you,
kills that motion.
it kills that because now that takes that over and you can vote again, but it's all.
So. All right, I'm confused, I apologize.
So her motion kills his motion
Okay,
because everyone voted, or the majority voted to pass her motion or her amendment.
and we're gonna do it at a retreat.
Right.
After the retreat.
Right.
Okay,
And if we don't get enough done, we can always go back and say we need somebody to also meet. Not for clarity, more clarity, but that alleviates quite so many meetings.
all right. All right, well, I promise to get better at that stuff. All right, next up, we have, principal contracts.
Excuse me, just a
David.
point of order. I think we still have Priscilla's motion on the floor that we need to dispose of either with an up or down vote. Am I correct,
We
Priscilla?
just voted
You
that.
just did.
Been voted?
We voted it and it's already been voted, so it already.
Well, we
it's already-
sustained the amendment, but we have not voted on the new motion.
Yeah, so you have to say, and you restate it in the motion and just revote it. If you want to revote it again, you can, yes.
Well, my
And then
point,
you're right,
my
David, it
point.
should be.
my point is that when a motion is amended, and that amendment is accepted, that becomes the new motion.
Right,
So you do have a new motion that,
so the new motion is,
just as a formality, it's Robert's rules, we should vote on it.
Okay, thank you,
so
David.
the new motion is.
So the new motion is the original motion plus to add.
No, the new motion is to meet at a retreat, you should kind of repeat it, is to meet at a retreat and, look at expectations for superintendent and the board to come up with expectations on the board. You have to, you just revote basically the same thing, if you already voted it.
All right, there's any questions on that?
You can still have discussion now.
Any discussion on that? Brenda, go
So
ahead.
how does that work? So we're still putting it out there, but we're not putting a definitive time on, because I think that was his thought, we need to move on it. So are we able to have another retreat for that?
That would just be something you'd plan and schedule,
Okay, I mean, like,
trying to get everyone together. I think
Yeah.
that was Rob's
That was my one.
concern.
yeah,
But, we would just schedule it. Or, you know, I can ask Nicole to reach out and find a time that works. So,
Could we schedule it, well, we're gonna do goals and curriculum and that, is that too much to do all together?
Too much. Yeah, too much. I would do the norms and expectations and goals maybe together, because the goals may fall under some norms and expectations.
That's what it comes out of.
Yeah. So, but the curriculum thing is huge. And that, the last retreat was supposed to be curriculum / goals, and we didn't get to the goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we always have that, we have that second meeting the month that we might be able to do.
we can add that to the next meeting, or we can establish a separate retreat.
Any further discussion on the motion?
does
Go
it
ahead.
have to be a retreat? Can it just be the second meeting, like, because we're done budget, right? So we have.
The motion is to establish a retreat, so, that could be a clarification if you want to ask her that piece, I don't. But
I just want to do it.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially the relationship building, because yeah, we need that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Mike, how's the?
Oh, yes.
Darcy,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes,
Rob,
yes,
and David.
Yes,
All right, motion
so
passes.
people can hear me at home.
Thank you, David. All right, motion passes.
It worked.
All right, thank you. Okay, principal contract, executive session, so, we're gonna go.
Mr. We're
Sorry,
gonna
David.
move that to the end of the meeting.
That's
Generally speaking, what we've done in the past with executive sessions is hold the end of the meeting so we can get through our regular agenda while we still have people who may have some interest in what we're talking about.
I have no problem with that.
It's the chair's discretion. I'm simply raising a question around a point of order. It's been the customary practice in the past, but we certainly don't need to do it that way.
any
Also,
word on
next
the,
up is the student
seniors?
presentation.
no word on the seniors
The
yet?
kids should be here in about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we go to unfinished business? And we're gonna skip student presentation, and when the students come in, we can jump them in. And Mike, can you update us on the retreat, the handout you gave us?
Sure, I think I can do that in 5 minutes, so, good timing. I have copies of the notes that I circulated. Does anybody need a copy of these?
My printer doesn't like whatever system. we
Yeah, I
use.
know, I need.
I use Word, and then if it's sent through Gmail, it converts it to a different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you click on the document
Okay.
and it will open it in Word.
Well, one thing I got was all different languages. I did something wrong.
Yeah, Gmail and Microsoft products don't like each other.
Well, it also could be. No, I'm good, thank you. What versions
Yeah.
you're using, so as it opens up, it comes up all
Yeah.
gobbledygook.
I apologize. That was in a PowerPoint presentation, but still, you should be able to open it on the tech effort. So the bottom line is, subsequent to our retreat on the 22nd, had some excellent meetings. The first meeting I would describe as kind of a rules of engagement, and at that meeting we were, that was myself, Deb Cardane, and Kate O'Connor, and basically really what we did was we made very clear we were all on the same page as to what this was about. And it's very clear, and I've stated this in subsequent meetings, it's not the board's responsibility to develop the curriculum or implement the curriculum, but it is our job to oversee the process that will develop it and then implement it, and to communicate and, I believe, partner with the school on this. And this process, I think, is important from the standpoint of when the curriculum is developed and delivered, the board will be better educated as a result of this process to either support or reject or, give feedback to Andy, to Kelly, who really own this process. So I think we've gotten very clear on the, if you will, the rules of the road, terms, rules of engagement. Our first meeting, and then the subsequent meeting we had was with Mark Ebo, guidance here at the high school. And we did a deep dive into the flexible pathways piece of the curriculum. And to be honest with you, that's probably really at the core of the curriculum from the standpoint of that is a law that was passed through a state back in 2013, and it is what gives the school the authority and the optionality to educate students in their personalized learning plans and approach things like work-based education and dual enrollment and other wonderful tools that are in the bag of the folks like Mark Ebo. That was probably one of the best meetings. Andy was at that meeting. Deb Cardane was at that meeting. Mark obviously was at that meeting. And Jenny was also at that meeting. That was probably one of the best meetings I participated in because of the depth of insight that was presented by Mark. And to be very honest with you, a real, not an eye-opener necessarily, but it really helped me as a new board member to see what they are actually doing and what they can do. And it was very encouraging, very positive. So that's kind of where things are at right now. And this is going to take some time. Obviously, scheduling is always a challenge. And, we're getting to the end of the school year and people are thinking, the summer, et cetera. So I guess I would like to ask the board from the standpoint of, one of the things that we established was the scheduling of the process and kind of the sequencing of how we should go about getting this input from all of the stakeholders. And that includes, people from the business community, parents, students, taxpayers, really the entire stakeholder group. We tried to, and I think we agreed to this at our first meeting, out of respect, we want to hear from the teachers, we want to hear from the school first, and that helps to build the buy-in with the people who are, let's face it, going to implement this. But at the same time, a lot of teachers are going to be gone for the summer. So my question to the board is, how do we want to go about doing this at this point? And there's a lot of people, Andy's here so he can give us his thoughts too. I mean, there's a lot of other stakeholders that we'd like to hear from. The consultants, I saw on the schedule here, I think New Solutions K-12 is something that's up for discussion. I don't know if Andy, you brought that to the table or who brought that to the table, but there's other things that are going on and there are other stakeholders that we can, potentially pursue. I see myself as a kind of a facilitator in this process, and I'll do what the board wants to do in terms of pursuing this and keeping this going. We're not going to have it. I think one of the things that we talked about at our retreat was the possibility of having an answer or a series of suggestions, recommendations to discuss with Andy by this November. That's probably optimistic. I don't know how Andy's feeling about his input from the consultants that he's working with, whether November is still a good time frame in his mind. But I essentially felt, I would report in, and that's why I shared the notes from these meetings with the board, but also look to the board for some direction in terms of how do you want to go about this? Our next meeting is the 26th. Do you want me to pursue external stakeholders outside of the teachers? If we can't schedule the teachers, what would people like?
Good. Thank you. David?
Well, I try to think strategically like a teacher. And if I were a teacher, I might actually want to hear the community input, because then I think it might better inform my inputs after I'd had a chance to read the community. Teachers are going to do the heavy lifting, but I think they're actually disadvantaged in going first. And when I say that, I want to make a point here, and that is if there are teachers or representatives of teachers or even the association who wants to come and have a presence over the summer, let's do that. Okay. So,
Thank you. Anyone else for Mike? So I had a couple of suggestions. So one thing I would like to do is, because this is a huge, let's just call it an elephant. And when you have a big, huge elephant, one thing you always try to do is how do you eat an elephant? It's because it's a huge project, and you can't take on a huge project all at once. So you got to take it one bite at a time. And I am committed to, the second meeting, heavy curriculum base, because I want to hit, my goal would be to hit the November timeline, because that's what we said we were going to do. In order for me to have integrity, I need to hit the deadline, because when we do that, then we also are setting ourselves up for success for a budget season for next year, because we want to right size the ship, and we want to make sure we have the right people, and we might find that we need more people or less. I don't know. We don't know the answer. So we need to find out that stuff. And I think my perception is staff would like to look into this as well. Is my perception. So I definitely want to support whatever you need. I believe the board has been very positive with what you've been doing with it, and I thank you for that. And I want to keep moving forward. So, at every second meeting, I want to, I'm going to ask for agenda items, and hopefully there's quite a bit of stuff we can continue to do, because we all have a lot to learn towards that. So, I don't want to speak for the entire board, but I think for me, I think that's I'll read to tackle. So.
Okay, so if that's what everybody feels is the right way to pursue this, two issues. One, we've never really communicated with the community what we're doing. That was to some extent trying not to put the cart in front of the horse, from the standpoint of allowing the staff and the teachers to kind of lead this process out of respect. So number one, I in my notes, I attached the original announcement, if you will, as to what we were doing at the board. So that would be number one. Do people want to communicate what we're doing to the community? And then number two, if you want to continue to, I can bring in other representatives from small business or the business community those people that, and I mean, I'd love to, get Kelly to come in. I know you're very busy and you've got a lot going on and year end is difficult for teachers. But if that's the way the board wants to pursue it, I mean, I'm a pusher. I'll push to get it done. But that's my question. Is that what people want?
I think if we try it and it doesn't work, we can audible and do something else, but if we don't try it, it's never gonna work.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, a lot of it is scheduling, to be honest with you, and finding people with the available time. But the reality is, if you don't start, it doesn't, if you don't plan it, it doesn't happen. So, if that's what people want, I will continue to pursue that.
Yeah, I think, Mike, your first point of communication to the community has to happen first.
Yeah. I personally think this could be a very positive thing.
Absolutely.
From the standpoint of the board is trying to get educated to help the school do its job, and the school owns it. We don't own it. But the more educated and, in our conversations with Deb Cardane, et cetera, and we've asked to meet with the department head. That hasn't developed yet. And again, I know they're busy, but from the standpoint of, again, making sure the communication is clear, the board knows its role. It's not the developer and the owner and the implementer of the curriculum. But we're trying to support, we're trying to get input. And honestly, like I said, the meeting we had with Mark, the other day was very positive, and the depth of knowledge is very encouraging. And so I'll continue to pursue the stakeholders come in, and then we've got to talk about, or I can again circulate a potential, and again, maybe here, and Andy, you can speak in terms of our communication with the community as to this process. Can you give us some direction in terms of what you would recommend or what you would suggest and how we should go about this?
Yeah, I think probably the first thing to do is establish a timeline.
Yeah.
For what you're trying to do, and then communicate that out. I mean, we package around what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah.
So the message is out there. But also, as far as if there's dates and times we're looking to have people come and talk.
Yeah.
We should publish those, just put some, hey, we want to talk.
Yeah.
And then not put something out, it's gonna be like, so I think that'll be the big thing. I think it'll be, again, summer's challenging, right? Parents are traveling or they're on vacation, but I think starting the process and seeing where it goes, and it might be, we gotta, like Jason said, call an audible come fall, but at least we'll get some fraction of where we want to go in direction. So
what's your thoughts on the consultants? Is that a meeting that you could help us set up from the standpoint of just getting to know them and understanding what their thoughts are in terms of what they're going to be doing or contributing to your efforts?
You mean like with focus schools? When you say consultants,
excuse me,
are you talking about the email I sent you?
I'm speaking specifically of the New Solutions K through 12.
So New Solutions K-12 is something totally different. I mean, that's a process that's going into next year. That we had a meeting. I wasn't able to attend. I'm still reading through the notes. There's unpacking as how it's a lot about scheduling, and it's not necessarily about curriculum. So it's just about how we schedule people. And so they're going to be coming in and interviewing board members. They're going to interview community members. They're going to interview administration and teachers and all that. They have a timeline and a process for that I can get to you so you can see how they're looking at doing that. But I would have to check with them, and so I apologize, Mike, because I was not able, that meeting was on Friday, it conflicted with another meeting I had.
Right.
Okay,
I have a hand up,
sorry.
but I'll yield to my distinguished
that's
colleague
okay.
from Rockland.
Brenda, go ahead.
I just wanted to know what happened to the core questions in the focus group. We didn't get to that part yet.
The questions.
Yeah,
for the focus group.
the focus. group.
We never did. I mean, that was, in my mind, it was kind of a two-step process. We were going to communicate
Yeah.
About the effort, but we didn't have all the questions
Yeah.
together. We got some inputs from you all in terms of coming up with the questions, but we never even got the announcement out, so we never.
Nothing went out to the community yet, and then you met with the other people and you got right up to this part. And that's where you're asking where we're gonna go from there, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, I think Andy was the one that recommended that concept of having some common questions that we would ask to all the people that we were meeting with to try to get some uniformity to the data we're going to collect. And I think that makes sense. But to me, the priority would be get the announcement out there. So number one, that there's the awareness that we're looking for input from the community. And number two, I think it's a very positive thing to be a message to be sending to the community that we're, you know, we're partnering with the school to look at this and the, you know, the many different pieces that this plays into in terms of, you know, the curriculum is kind of core to the entire system. Okay. So I'd say first, let's get the announcements, figure out what when and how and the timing that we, and I'll take a shot at something like that. I'll circulate to everybody. Andy, does that have to come out of the school, or how do we communicate to the community?
We would use our school messenger system,
Okay.
but then, if you're looking to get out to people beyond parents, we would have to do some, you know, either social media advertisement or advertisement in some other way.
Okay.
You know, whether we partner with Fact TV, or, you know, put an ad in the paper or something.
Okay. Well, I just think talking about it here is helping, will help. But we'll pursue the different options. And Kelly, you're here. Did you have anything you wanted to contribute or say about the process? Obviously, you're going to own it going forward, and you know.
I guess I had a process question as to whether you've seen the vision of a graduate that was created. I guess as I'm listening and reviewing the materials, what I'm hearing is less curriculum specific and more a
Kelly,
vision.
I apologize, but I can't hear you at all.
Sure, let me switch back a little bit. I guess it's a question that I have about whether your end goal here, which again, I like everything that's in here, but I think maybe some of the language around it is a sticking point for some, right? And I think what you're trying to do is revisit the portrait of a graduate or the vision of a graduate, kind of like relook at our North Star, right? In terms of why we're doing what we're doing, right? And so I'm wondering if there's space to insert different language that's not curriculum, because I think that is very loaded, and as you pointed out, is very much owned by the department chairs in the building, right?
Right.
And so is there space to kind of recenter that vision of a graduate that was created by community? I do think it needs to be looked at again, and that's very much, in my opinion, the kind of strategic vision or the strategic plan for the building and for this community. And from that, then the faculty would work in consultation, right, to kind of create that curricular map and make sure that we're accountable to meeting that vision, right? So I guess I just wanted to put a flag out around the language, make sure that you've seen that document. Certainly, I'm curious myself and how that original document, you know, the community input that went into creating that, because there might be some gems in there for you to consider as well in this next step. So,
Okay, David, before your question, thank you, Kelly. We promised that we would take a break and that our student would review what they would like to review with us. So,
Hello.
Mary, do you have feedback there? Or do you-
Should I go over there? Well, okay, so here's the thing. My phone is on a lifeline and I'm using it for speaker notes. So I just
I might have a plug right here. Hang on.
Well,
I can bring it back there.
15%. I bet it could survive.
All right, sure.
so first, could you just introduce yourself?
Hang on. Let me get this up there for her. Why don't you introduce yourself while you?
My name is Mary Wallace. I am the valedictorian of the senior class, and I was going to present with
another student in my class, but he is unable to make it because of other obligations. This presentation has been rescheduled like 3 times now, so I figured might as well give it now. It is on our concurrent enrollment opportunities at this school, going over what they are, what's the differences between them, and the value behind them, because there's been a lot of discussion by the school board that I think this is supposed to be informative. I think there's some information we should know and brush up on. So, yes. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna keep going, Mary. You're
Okay.
doing great.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're out there, yeah, you're done.
Yep, that's it.
You just pick the arrows and that'll work on that.
So this is called AP versus dual enrollment. I've heard some talk about like, why should we, AP and dual enrollment are kind of interchangeable. And so I'm just gonna brush up on what's different between them. So to preface, we made this presentation in the context of a situation. So the board is concerned about running courses with small class sizes, right? Also, there was a passing of a motion to cut a math and social studies position, which has since been reversed, but that decision would have led to AP comparative government not running next year, and it would have led to AP calculus not running next year. Those classes will now run, but the fact that decision was made without considering the impact that would have had is worth noting. Also, there's been a recent trend of declining AP enrollment, meaning these classes are susceptible to being cut. AP Human Geography, which is a class we have here, has not run this year and will not run next year due to lack of incoming freshman interest. And also, I believe it was Priscilla who commented, we have 19 classes with less than 10 students of them. 5 of these classes are AP classes. And so that's, worth noting. Also, our understanding is that we wish to play it safe. These classes can always be added back. Students who are motivated to take AP courses could take them online, or they could take dual enrollment, because dual enrollment is another opportunity to gain college credit. So college credit, you need to graduate college. There's this program called concurrent enrollment where you earn college credit and high school credit at the same time. And the college credits are tuition free, so you're saving money. And we have a few opportunities to get college credit early at BFUHS. We have AP classes, we have dual enrollment, and we have an early college program. And these are all under the umbrella of concurrent enrollment. So what exactly do we offer, right? We have 7 AP classes, but only 6 are running this year, as Human Geography is not. We have 2 dual enrollment classes. They're covered by the state, not the district. So if students want to take additional dual enrollment classes or like college courses, those are out of pocket. And then early college is another program we have that covers a year of concurrent enrollment. So that's 10 classes or 5 per semester, because you spend your senior year out of college. So pros and limitations of each of these. I'm just going to go over what they are and why a student might want to take them and why a student might be discouraged. So AP classes, these are our 7 AP classes. Who teaches them. We have a very strong social studies department at this school. We have 4 social studies AP classes, 1 for each year that you're in the high school. We're actually very lucky to offer a freshman AP class, despite that not running as of recent. And then we also offer English literature, calculus, AB, and studio art. You can see here, this is students that took these classes this year, and this is the students that are projected to take these classes next year. Most of them are under 10 students, right? And then Human Geography has not been running. It is unlikely to run in the future because when a class stops running, it's difficult to get it to start back up again due to scheduling. So how do they work, right? Course curriculum is based around preparation for a final exam. This exam is administered by the College Board. I actually do a speaker notes for this slide. Administered by the College Board, which was established in 1955 to expand access to higher education. The administration, the College Board, they run SATs, they run ACTs. They are recognized by over 6,000 institutions internationally. So
It's like a real institution that colleges look at. The exam is scored on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the equivalent of an A in a college level class, and 3 is passing, so like a C, right? And then 1 or 2 are not passing grades. And it depends on the college that you go to. They may only offer credit for higher scores, such as 4s or 5s, or like A's or B's if they think you got a C in, if it's the equivalent of a C in the class, they want you to retake it. And they may only offer credit for some AP courses. This is usually with like more competitive schools. If they think that their curriculum is more in depth than the AP curriculum, they'll expect students to retake it. And they may not offer credit at all. If you go to like an Ivy, you probably won't have credit transfer. But many colleges, as I said, 6,000 institutions, translate passing AP scores into credit for a corresponding course. So this is, I'm going to UVM next year for computer science, but this is their AP comparability guide. So I took Calculus AB this year. If I get a 4 or a 5 on it, that's the equivalent of their Calculus 1 class. So I get 4 credits towards my college graduation. Same thing, I took US and world history, I got 5s on both of those. So I then have 9 credits. So that's a total just of those 3 AP courses. I have 13 credits towards my college graduation. And it's different for schools, right? They can determine that. But yeah, so in conclusion, pros of taking AP classes is a heck of a lot of institutions recognize the AP program. We have excellent teachers at this school that teach our AP classes. Also, they increase students' critical thinking abilities because they have to comprehensively understand material for a final exam. You have to learn how to study effectively. And I think other classes at this high school do not teach study skills to the same extent. Also, many colleges look at how many AP classes you've taken. Even if they don't accept credit for them, they still look at if you've taken advantage of challenging course opportunities. Also, having AP classes makes our high school more desirable because if you're a motivated student, it matters that you have the opportunity to receive college credit early. And AP classes are most likely to be accepted by any institution that you go to. So limitations of AP classes. College credit depends solely on passing the final exam, not on passing the class. So if you're a or test taker, or if perhaps a lot of students take, at least like in my year, took an AP class the freshman year, didn't know the study skills yet, didn't do great on the exam, and were kind of turned off to AP classes in the future. Also, BFUHS has generally low AP enrollments, which I guess for the board could be kind of a deterrent if you're looking at this from a financial perspective. And classes are more difficult, which as a student perhaps could be a deterrent. So dual enrollment is our second concurrent enrollment opportunity. We have 3, as I've categorized them, opportunities for this, but you can only take 2 without paying for the tuition, right? So we offer honors calculus. It's in-house, it's taught by Ms. Swan, and it's through RBCC. So basically you take honors calculus as a high school class, and then you get RBCC credit, like you get an RBCC transcript for that class. And that has had low enrollment, but it usually runs with our AP calculus class. So they run in conjunction. We also have 2 English classes through CCB taught by Ms. Tobin that are in-house. We have Honors American Literature and 21st Century Writing that are just high school classes that you take and then you get college credit for them. And those tend to run with higher numbers, respectively. Honors American Lit has run 21st Century Writing with 25. And then there are college courses that you can take a college course offered by a college online. I have taken 2 courses through UVM. One of them counted as dual enrollment, and the other one I had to pay for out of my own pocket because I had used up my 2 dual enrollment classes, and I didn't have a third. So I took computer science, like introduction through UVM, and that was online. There wasn't any like teacher at the high school that was helping with that. It was just the college professor. And then I took this year cybersecurity law and policy. It was just a law course. And that one was not covered by dual enrollment, but it was a college course. And that was also, I didn't have a teacher here that was like supporting me with that. So I guess you could divvy it up between in-house and online. in terms of what dual enrollment might cover. But we only offer these through the in-house opportunities for dual enrollment. Yeah, and this was difficult to get data on, because they're not, the counseling department is allowed to tell me who is taking classes, online and or not, so, yeah. So how does dual enrollment work? Well, it's run by partner secondary and tertiary level institutions. Our in-house opportunities are all through community colleges. Okay, oh gosh. Okay, typically credit earned is not recognized by out-of-state colleges. So if you earn credit through a community college in Vermont, if you go out of state, colleges won't accept that. I'm very lucky that I'm decided to go to a school in state. But if you want to take an online college course and you know what school you want to go through, that can be helpful because it will be recognized by the institution at which it was earned for sure, right? So if I want to go to, say, I'm thinking an out-of-state college, like University of New Hampshire, if I take classes through them online, of course it's going to transfer because it's through that school. But like CCB credit would be unlikely to transfer there because it's out of state. Online college courses operate independent study, where students put learning labs, which are study halls, in their schedules to set aside time to work on online coursework. There is no teacher equivalent. Like for my cybersecurity law class, there's nobody at the school that teaches that, right? There was a comment that was made on, you know, students can take online classes because we have teachers at the school that will support them. If you take an online class that's in a niche subject, you're not going to have an in-person equivalent. And then also our in-person dual enrollment opportunities are indistinguishable in nature from honors level high school classes. So I think the study skills that you learn from AP courses are not equivalent to our in-person, like honors English class, whatever. Like it's just not, it's not college level. You just get college credit for it. So that's worth noting. So pros of dual enrollment: students can earn college credit taking high school level courses. It's easier to fit these courses into a student schedule. AP classes take up a semester and a half, but in terms of scheduling, it's really difficult to, it's basically a full year, right? Because a half of a block, it's hard to find a class that would fill a half of a block. Whereas dual enrollment classes only take a semester. So it's easier to fit that in your schedule. Also, the ability to take courses online gives greater specificity and diversity in options for topics. I was able to take cybersecurity law, right? That's not a class that we offer here. And so I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And I think people that know what niche topic they want to go into, it's a great opportunity to be able to take online college classes. Oh yeah, okay. And then limitations on dual enrollments. Colleges may not recognize dual enrollment credit taught by a high school teacher. Leah Clark, who graduated in 2019, went to Tufts University, and her English class that she took, Honors American Literature, was not accepted for credit at that school because it was taught by a high school teacher and not a college professor. So that is a thing that can happen, right? So it might be a smarter decision for students to take online college courses and use their dual enrollment credits in that way, because they're more likely to be accepted. There are also obstacles to teachers for dual enrollment that don't exist for AP classes. They have to fill out a separate grading system for the college as well as the high school, so it's more of a time commitment. And you also need a master's degree to teach a dual enrollment class. Whereas for AP classes, you only need to be certified for AP, which costs a little bit less college tuition. So yeah, also colleges out of state are unlikely to recognize credit. I would say if I'm a student and I'm trying to choose between AP and dual enrollment and I want the credit that I receive to transfer to the college that I go to, AP is a better bet. However, if I'm a student that doesn't feel like taking as difficult a class as AP classes or dual enrollment might be a better option for me because our in-house classes are more high school level than college level. So that's the difference there. And I think it's important to offer our dual enrollment classes because students should still have the opportunity to earn college credit, even if they don't want to take a college level class. So early college is our final concurrent enrollment opportunity. And the state covers tuition out of college for a year. So students will withdraw withdraw from here and enroll in a college. Typically, students do CCV, but we also have the BAST program, which is at Vermont Technical College. And they're expected to take 5 classes per semester and over 2 have the state cover their tuition, which is a full schedule for a student in a college. Students can still play sports at Bellows Falls, but they don't come to the building during the day because they aren't students here. And the state only covers tuition, so students have to cover room and board out of pocket. So pros of this, if a student plans to go to school in state, it can be a great way to save a year of tuition because the credit is likely to transfer. However, if they go out of state, CCV credit will likely not transfer, so it's kind of a waste of a year away from your peers. It also provides a more accurate campus experience because they'll be living on a campus. And then limitations, I don't like the fact that this isn't what I said. Yeah. Most students want to be in classes with their peers their senior year. Most years we only have like 1 or 2 students take advantage of this program because students want to be with their friends their senior year. And there's also a commute if they're participating in sports or I guess any other program. So it's a lot harder for students to do that. I know one of my tennis teammates last year did the early college program at CCV, and she would be like late to practice every day because she had to make the commute. And there were a couple of matches where we had to leave school early that she wasn't able to make it to. So that it's worth noting. I know we care about our athletics here, so that might be, also credits are unlikely to transfer if attending an out-of-state university after high school. Also, community college classes contain a wide range of skill levels. So I was talking to Ms. Tabachnik, and she said that a student here that had done the early college program had commented to her that the school's AP classes felt a lot more college level than classes at a community college, because community college is not all the students want to be there, right? So you have, it was more of a mix, and it was difficult to be as engaged in the class content because of that. So what's the point, right? Why did I make this presentation? Well, each of these opportunities hold their own unique benefit, right? AP classes are the most likely to be accepted by future colleges. They're the most challenging, and in-person APs, I believe, prepare students for online classes, right? I think the study skills you learn taking an AP course at BF are necessary to take a college course online. I took an AP course the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. It was AP psychology, and I do not think I would have done nearly as well as I did if I hadn't taken human geography the year before, because I knew how to study and I knew how to stay organized. And it was really valuable to have that in-person experience before, because I've taken a lot of classes online now, and but that's because I know how to discipline myself and study, right? Dual enrollment students have flexibility to choose online courses, so there's more variety. The AP curriculum, the AP courses that are offered, they're kind of set, right? You have like AP World History, you have AP US History. There's not like some niche, like, 15th century jugglers or whatever in a random class you might be able to take at college, right? So dual enrollment, you could take those niche classes. They're also less challenging, and there's no final exam that, like, if you pass the class, you get the credit. And they're shorter courses, so it's easier to fit their schedule. And then early college is a more accurate college campus experience. However, only 20% of students utilize any of this. I did the math myself, so and I have additional statistics to add to that. So this year, 1 student utilized our early college program. 13% of students partook in dual enrollment, and 61.5% of those who enrolled in dual enrollment were 21st century writing students, which is a level 3 course it's not even honors level. It's just like a regular high school class that you can get college credit for. So I would say if you're looking at students that are challenging themselves, like, only 12% of students are taking like concurrent enrollment classes that are remotely college level. Also 7% of students took at least one AP class this year, compared to a 2021 national average of 34.9% and a 2021 Vermont average of 37.5%. So that's 7%, 37.5%, which is not great. And I don't think students here are incapable of taking harder classes, right? Like, I don't think that that's something students can't do. They just don't know the benefits of taking these classes. So I understand the school board is looking at low enrollment numbers and you're saying, oh, why are we running these classes if so few students are taking them? Why are so few students taking them? That's, so concurrent enrollment, I made a list of pros of concurrent enrollment in general. I think these pros are not communicated to students. So I'm gonna communicate them to you and hopefully we can address that. So you save a lot of money. I will be entering college with 38 credits. That is a third of an undergraduate degree, right? And I will be saving them, excluding any scholarships that I receive. I will be saving $19,000 from college credit alone that I received in high school. That's a lot of money. And we have like around 50% of students here qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have a lot of students that are in financial need, right? That will be going into debt in college. And only 20% are taking advantage of the opportunity to save money on tuition, right? That is a point that is not communicated to students their freshman year, right? When I came into the school, the only reason I took an AP course was because my brother took an AP course and I wanted to one up him, okay? There's nobody is told that. Also, even if it's not related to what they plan to study, credits often check off diversity requirements. I've heard a lot of students tell me that they don't want to take AP courses because they're going into STEM and it's a social studies class, right? But of the 38 credits that I have, that they check off, I think 13 classes, right? 3 of those classes relate to my major. The other 10 check off diversity requirements, classes that I would have otherwise had to take, but now won't. So I now have flexibility to do whatever I want for a year and a half, right? So they're still relevant. Credits are still relevant, even if they're not towards your major. Also, getting ahead of the bell curve relieves pressure, it allows flexibility, and it makes life easier in the future for college-bound students. Taking college-level classes early means students are developing valuable study skills before they go into higher education. Classes tend to be more engaging and proactive than regular high school classes because the students that are in those classes want to be there. I have had the misfortune of taking some regular based classes in high school, you know, for graduation requirement purposes, and they are so like dreadful. I learned nothing. They're so slow and boring and nobody wants to learn. And so the opportunity to be in a classroom with students who are motivated to learn the class material is so valuable because you actually gain something from the class material. Also, some of the best teachers the school has teach AP and dual enrollment classes, and these are the classes that the teachers enjoy teaching. They're the classes that the teachers got their degrees to teach, right? So it's a valuable experience. Oh my goodness, a tiny box. Moving on. So even if you don't pass the exam, right? Because that's a big deterrent for students in terms of AP classes, is you don't want to take an AP class and then not pass the exam and get nothing out of it, right? I have a few quotes from students. This is from Dylan Stewart, she's a sophomore. She said, "My view on the world has been completely altered since taking AP World. I get so many references in entertainment, have a better understanding of current events in the world, and can formulate good arguments regarding my opinion on historical topics. It's amazing." This is a quote from an alum, Timmy Guyon, who graduated a while back. So these classes provide students with the opportunity to engage in rigorous academic discussions, work on group projects, and debate complex issues with their peers. Collaboration skills are highly valued in the workplace and are essential for future success. Grady Harris, BF alum. AP classes taught me how to study and to write academically and creatively, showed me sides of the world I never would have thought to look at, and created an environment where I felt safe, seen, and heard. I didn't have a voice in large class sizes. I couldn't express my creativity or dive into areas of interest. I was unable to learn when I was not challenged in mainstream curriculum. Abby Carvino. These classes taught me more than just the curriculum they were required to, but also valuable life skills that I continue to use to this day. Ideas such as questioning the dominant narrative, how to engage difficult discussions, critical thinking, and working with others, just to name a few. I have a collection of letters written by BF alumni on the, I'm going to pass them out to you guys now, on how AP classes, the soft skills that they have taught, have been beneficial in their future lives. I'm going to run out.
Thank you. Leah Clark sent them around a month
Yes,
or
she
two
did.
ago, and I read them all.
And she told me that she got a few responses before people had read them, so I figured I'd
Did
give
she share them
you
with
this
you?
copy.
I sent her a response. Did she share it with you?
Did she share her response with me?
No, did she share my response to Leah with you? Leah, share it.
I believe I did read a response by you. I believe you had not yet read the letters. So I would appreciate if you would all read through those. They're very well written. So I think a big reason why students don't take these classes, right? Because what we're looking at is the 7% of students at BFUHS take AP classes. Net Vermont average is 37%, and that's just a big difference. So I think the one big thing is that students are not told about the opportunities. This is a quote from a senior saying, coming into ninth grade, he was not aware of the AP classes. It wasn't until halfway through ninth grade, he heard of them through a friend as opposed to any type of promotion. I think we care too much about scores. If we do not think a student will pass an AP exam, we do not tell them about the opportunity, regardless of the soft skills that are learned and the value of those soft skills, which is an issue. I don't think the value that we place on scores should deter students from taking advantage of opportunities. And then this is a quote from a senior who took his first AP English class or AP class this year. It was AP English. The truth is AP courses don't feel any harder than an honors level class. And in reality, they improve your overall insight on things. If you have a strong work ethic and you want to work hard, it's super easy. The works of literature are also a lot more interesting and fun to learn. And this was a student that was not advised to take an AP class earlier in high school. That's a problem that we have. We don't tell students about opportunities because we care too much about test scores. And we think that if we have poor test scores, then we're not doing well. I think we're not doing well if students aren't taking classes. So this is, I put together, or I suppose my father suggested to me, some analogies, right? Because we are a district that cares a heck of a lot about our sports programs. One of the main points is why play a sport in high school if you don't plan to play professionally? And I suppose your answer would be because you learn things you otherwise wouldn't have, and it's a valuable experience. So why take a challenging class if you don't plan to go into that field, right? I think we need to change the way that we think about education. Also, a teacher is similar to a coach, right? With the argument of students can just take these classes online if they're motivated to take them. Yes, you could set your team up, right, with a virtual coach that meets with them once a week to review the drills and workouts they're supposed to do. But it's unrealistic to assume that all players will have the discipline to pull this off. And some will, but it will require more work for them and make it more difficult for them, which is unfair. And I feel that current school culture contributes to the belief that difficult classes, even the in-person ones, are only for students with the discipline to do them independently, right? Which is not true, right? And students are deterred from taking classes because they feel that they're too stupid. They feel that they don't have the discipline to do things independently, therefore they won't succeed in a more difficult class. Which I don't believe is true. Also, Youth sports programs. We have a very strong athletic program at BF, and much of that is because for sports like football, field hockey, and basketball, we have youth programs that give students the skills needed to thrive later on. And students enter the high school and have already established the skills they need to succeed in these sports. But we do not have an academic equivalent for that. The middle school feels very, at least my experience, they felt very stagnant in terms of skill development. And I think that by not offering higher level opportunities at a younger age, students are then entering the high school without skills needed to thrive in the higher level high school opportunities, right? So then they don't feel that they're ready to take an AP class in high school, and then they never take an AP class in high school, right? So that's if we want to look at solutions, possibly something we're focusing. Based on discussions of some cuts, this is largely based,
Cancel.
Yeah.
So there are some consequences of kind of a lack of focus on education. What is happening? Sorry. Okay, so in this scenario, we fail to encourage students to sign up for these classes, and we cut some in-person APs. AP Human Geography has not been running, and then if the motion to cut a math and social studies position had not been reversed, AP Comparative Government would not have run, AP Calculus would not have run. If we offer opportunities to put these AP classes online, which is what I've heard discussed, and if we offer more dual enrollment, because currently all we have is what the state covers, then that's not loading. Brain drain. So what motivates students to do concurrent enrollment, right? They want college credit at the college they choose to attend. They care about their GPA. I can go into how GPA is calculated. I have a little thing at the end, but I figured I didn't want to go through that. If you have questions, I'll go over it. And they want the experience of challenging class. All three of those lean towards AP classes as being a better bet for students like me, who are really focused on these three things. Right, so AP classes are most likely to transfer elsewhere. They're most widely recognized. They provide an engaging challenge that other concurrent enrollment opportunities do not. And if you did not offer AP classes in person, I would have gone to VA. If I came in as a freshman and I kind of saw the declining enrollment and I saw, talk towards putting things online and potentially cutting our AP opportunities, I would have gone to VA. And I know students at this school that are looking at transferring to Vermont Academy because they feel there is not enough emphasis at this school placed on higher educational opportunities. The top student of the sophomore class is transferring to VA following recent course cuts. It's important to note that you not only lose academically motivated students to brain drain, you also lose community involvement. It's your motivated students that lead your music program, your drama program, your art program, your math team, newspaper, yearbook committee, student council, and also in many cases, your athletic program. Jake, who was his salutatorian senior class, he was going to present with me today. He's the captain of the football team and the baseball team or the basketball team. And if baseball had captains, probably there too. And I play varsity field hockey. I think there's a lot of overlap, right? Your motivated students are motivated in other aspects too, right? So I think that it's worth putting the emphasis on providing their needs and supporting that. Also, what we offer now is already not enough. I've gone out of my way to take additional concurrent enrollment opportunities that aren't covered by what the school offers. I took that cybersecurity law and policy class. That was my own money, right? Because I wanted to do that. I also, I know that I will be a little bit behind going to college because we do not offer calculus BC. We only offer calculus AB. So I will not have as much calculus experience as my peers. Most schools offer, especially in larger districts, and I know it's difficult to hold a big school schedule in a small school. but larger districts, I would be able to take a full schedule of AP classes, all years. So that's worth noting. I think cutting things should not be what we're doing, because I've felt I had to seek out additional opportunities, in order to meet my academic needs. So why should the board care about all of this, right? You're looking at this from a financial perspective, and your motivated students are still a minority. Well, first of all, with brain drain, the school gets less money from the state. Fewer students equals lower budget. If you want to attract students to come here, you get more money. I would say your higher level classes are a big motivating factor. Also, I believe this was mentioned by Jason Terry. What can we do to improve the overall ranking of our school? Well, AP classes improve the ranking of the school. And also they make it more desirable for students who want to transfer here. And then Priscilla Lambert, you commented that the cutting of a math and social studies position would not have any real impact on our students. The loss of AP Comparative Government, AP Calculus, those were classes that students were signed up for, that have a lot of value to them. Also, you mentioned that the small classes can't have good dialogue. And as I've mentioned before, small classes where the students want to be there and are motivated to be involved in class discussion are very helpful. So this is a quote from our art teacher on how our advanced classes affect the overall climate of the school. She said, oftentimes I'll have a gaggle of students come into my class and they're super animated because they had an advanced class the block before. My other students ask what's going on and the discussion continues with new participants. If it happens to be an art history day and my students have to write a response to some image-based open-ended question, these animated students supercharge the intellect carries over their written responses. What was an expected 2 to 4 sentence response becomes paragraphs with firmly stated opinions and challenges clearly written and supported. It's really amazing to see the students apply their debate, opinion, essay skills and lead their fellow classmates into dialogues. So the ability to be challenged in a class carries over into the rest of your day. So I think it's important we provide the opportunities for students to be challenged in classes. And that's the end of my presentation. So if anyone has any questions, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask for questions if anyone has any questions, but I did make a slide for that. So yes, so.
I have a question for you because your presentation made me very aware that there's one opportunity that you have left out of there.
Yes.
And that is the fact that you could do an independent class with a teacher here, such as if you didn't have enough AP calculus and you wanted more calculus, you could have done an independent AP calculus type class as an independent with Ms. Swan and actually take an exam. In fact, you don't even have to take a class to take an AP exam and get AP credit.
Yes, that is true. However,
so if you were motivated enough, you could find that for an opportunity as far as that goes. It really surprises me that you're saying that other out of states don't accept community college credits, because I know kids, my granddaughter, who went to a community college as a program in her high school in Maryland, and her credits were accepted in New Hampshire when she went to Keene.
right.
So they do transfer to other places. So it depends on how it's on your transcript and what you've done, and whether you've gotten it as a CCV credit.
Yes. So
So that's part of the problem.
On independent classes, right, you could take an online AP class, right, with support from a teacher here.
It's more difficult.
It is more difficult. You do not have to take a class to take an AP exam. But it is a lot harder to entirely self-study for an exam that has a lot of content. So a lot of students choose not to do that if they don't have the opportunity to take a class with take an actual class with a structured curriculum. now.
I agree with you, Mary, but it
Yes.
is one other opportunity.
It
I'm
is
just
another
saying it's another
I
opportunity.
did leave it out because I
you've
felt it was
overlooked.
unrealistic. I think of myself as a very motivated student, right? I think of myself as the kind of student who is willing to, seek out other opportunities and go above and beyond. But there are certain opportunities that I have, been turned off to. For example, I could have taken, if calculus did not run this year, right? We had 2 students in that class, there was a chance that it wouldn't run, but Mr. Broadley really fought for that class to run, and I'm happy he did. Because if it hadn't run, I could have taken it online, but I would not have, because calculus is an entirely different math,
It's hard.
right? So it's completely new. And even if I had taken that online with Ms. Swan, like on and off period, I think that that would have been too much for me, and I would have had to drop something else that I was doing. I don't think that I would have been able to handle that. Another class that I was turned off to taking online potentially is any of our history classes, because there's just so much content in 1 year, and I don't think I have the discipline. I would procrastinate too much to fit that all in before the exam. Psychology is notoriously an easy AP class, and I really struggled with taking that online, given I was like 15, so I probably would have done better now, but I think it's unrealistic to expect even your most motivated students to be able to have the discipline to just self-study for something, even if they have a teacher on campus that can, or on site that can help them, because they have to go seek out that teacher's help, right? If you learn the material and you have questions, you have to kind of remember those questions and then go see them later, so it's.
And it does depend on the students. I mean, I've seen students, because I was here, I've seen students that were disciplined enough and could do that.
Yeah.
And you have to determine whether you are disciplined enough and whether you can or not. But it is another opportunity for those that are.
Yes.
And I don't think we were not looking at cutting AP
Oh, of
classes.
course
We
not.
were looking at offering them maybe every other year because the students would have the same opportunities to have just
Yes.
as many classes.
In terms of scheduling, it is very, sorry, go ahead. It is very difficult to, with 4 blocks in a day, to fit in, if classes were offered every other year, it just wouldn't, I don't think, work.
It's scheduling problem.
In terms of scheduling, like if last year, all the senior AP classes were offered, and then this, I just don't think that it would mesh well in terms of, because there's also a linear progression in terms of what you're learning, right? So like AP calculus, right? You need to have taken pre-calculus before that. Before that, you need algebra 2 and geometry and algebra 1. And so in order to take all of those, right, usually it's by your senior year that you have all those requirements to take AP calculus, right? And so if it was offered last year, I wouldn't have had pre-calc yet, and I wouldn't have been able to take it. So that's the concern with offering these classes every other year.
Mary, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. Is there any other questions?
I just wanted to add something to Mary's presentation. I sit on a scholarship committee, and one of the first things that I look at is what AP classes have they taken, because that's a determination of how successful they're going to be in college. And so the more AP classes you can offer, regardless of the class size, and I'm not even going to get into whether it be online and that kind of stuff, but the more AP classes you can afford to offer to the students here, the better chances those kids are going to have of getting scholarships to help them with their financial aid in college.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate all looked like a lot of hard work, and definitely thank you for that, and very thoughtful of you. So appreciate everything.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move the table the balance of the agenda and move directly into the executive session to discuss principal contract.
So David, I was actually thinking that same exact thing. So I actually had it written down that I was going to table the the board minutes and the board goals and move into executive session. So like that motion to move into executive session. please.
Yes. That one,
It's gonna be, it's
I
past
would take a
bedtime.
motion.
Please speak, sorry, for that.
Pardon?
Speak up.
Oh, sorry.
Nice and loud, Priscilla.
Let me find a really good one here that's really. I don't have it. You have too many papers tonight. Absolutely. Anyway, I make a motion that we enter into executive session at 9:14 to discuss a contract matter where premature public knowledge could place the board and or individuals at a disadvantage and invite administration.
Great, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes?
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613 or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.